Hey there, your bestie Jeff from Hobbii here, and you are listening to Skein and Tell, the podcast that unravels it all. Today, we are diving into one of my favorite things in the whole fiber world, colorwork. Bold, expressive, rooted in tradition, but also completely modern when you give it the right spin. And that's exactly what the Dorthea Knit Collection is all about. Now, if Dorthea sounds familiar, and that's because it's not just a beautiful name, it's actually the street where our Copenhagen Fibers and Hobbii headquarters lives. And just like that street, the collection is a mix of heritage and modern life. Classic Nordic motifs reimagined with a fresh urban vibe. We're talking 4 gorgeous designs: a pair of mittens, a cozy cowl, a bold sweater, and the crown jewel, a yoke sweater that will make you want to cast on immediately. And whether you're brand new to colorwork or ready for a challenge, there's something here for you. So grab your needles, maybe 2 colors of yarn, and let's unravel the Dorthea collection together. Now let's start with the heart of it, colorwork. Colorwork isn't just decoration, okay? It is storytelling in stitches. And for centuries, knitters have used stranded motifs to say who they are, where they're from, or simply to bring joy to everyday garments. So from Icelandic yokes to Scandinavian mittens, these designs connect us to tradition. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But here's the magic. Colorwork also feels brand new every single time you knit it. When you add that second color, you're knitting, it comes alive in your hands. You're not just making fabric, you're almost like painting with yarn. And with Dorthea, that tradition meets modern style. These designs feel wearable, contemporary, and chic enough to show off in Copenhagen cafes, not just in knitting history books. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's see what these 4 patterns from the Dorthea collection are all about. Starting off with the Dorthea mittens. If you've never tried colorwork before, this is your perfect entry point because it's small, it's compact, and extremely satisfying. These mittens are knit cuff up in natural wool and brushed alpaca, 2 yarns that really balance beautifully the warmth, the durability, and softness. And the stranded motifs wrap around the hands, while neat ribbed cuffs keep everything tidy. And because they're so small, you can experiment with colors without feeling too overwhelmed. Now, mittens are a great way to practice also managing your floats. And the floats are basically like the strands of unused yarn that lay in the back. Now, by the end of one mitten, trust me, you'll feel like an absolute pro. And of course, the pattern is free on Hobbii.com, and you can already see a lot of photos and inspiration on the blog, so check it out. Next up, we have the Dorthea sweater. Are you ready to level up? Because you have to meet this bold, bottom-up, beautiful sweater. This one is oversized, warmth, and full of personality. It's knit in natural wool for structure and brushed alpaca for that softness. It features stranded motifs across the yoke, raglan decreases that shape the shoulders, which also give it a really clean fit. It's basically a sweater that feels super timeless and modern all at once. And honestly, it's a piece you will want to live in all winter. The kind of sweater that makes, strangers stop you and ask, "Oh my God, did you make that?" And you'll say, "Of course I did. Yes, of course." Next up, we have the Dorthea cowl. Now, the Dorthea cowl is a design where we believe this is the definition of Copenhagen chic. It's practical, it's cozy, it's endlessly stylish. It's knit in the round from the bottom up with stranded motifs as well that basically unfold as you go. The ribbed edge keeps it structured, and the mix of natural wool and once again brushed alpaca makes it warm but lightweight. So why should you make a cowl? Well, because it's quick, it's versatile, and it's a fantastic way to play with color work without committing to a full sweater. So if you want instant gratification again, or just a pop of Scandinavian style, this is definitely the one. And last but not least, the crown jewel, the Dorthea yoke sweater. Work top down with a relaxed fit, deep armholes, and sophisticated stranded motifs, this sweater shows colorwork at its absolute best. The construction includes short rows for a polished neckline, and a fit that's both comfortable and stylish. The yarn play here is absolutely genius. Natural wool held with silk mohair. This creates a luminous, luxurious base, while the baby alpaca blend adds a depth and adds dimension in the motifs. The textures layer together super beautifully, like magic, turning your sweater into a work of art. This is the kind of project that will make you very, 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 very proud to say, I made this, I knit this. It's a blend of tradition, of modern style, and pure crafter joy. And of course, we need to take also a moment to talk about the fibers, because they're what makes Dorthea so special. So let's get into that. Starting off with the backbone, we have natural wool. Now, natural wool brings stability, warmth, and a lot of stitch definition. It makes the motifs sharp and clear. Then we have brushed alpaca and baby alpaca blend. The brushed alpaca is basically the soft focus filter. It adds a gentle halo and makes the colors blend in beautifully, while the baby alpaca adds that subtle depth and a melange effect. Perfect for accent shades. The silk mohair is obviously the diva. It's light, it's shiny, and it's definitely luxurious. It really elevates your color work instantly when paired with wool. And here's a feel-good factor. The merinos and the alpaca yarns are Oeko-Tex certified and mule sync free. That means you can knit with confidence, knowing that the animals are safe and they're safe for you as well. Okay, bestie, let's get a bit practical. Color work can look intimidating, but it's all about a few key tricks. First of all, the most important one is managing floats. Now, those are the strands that run behind your work. Keep them loose enough that your fabric doesn't pucker, but not so loose that they snag. So you need to stretch your stitches across the needle as you carry the yarn. This keeps your tension even. Then we have color dominance. The color that you hold closest to the work will pop while the other one recedes. You want your motifs to stand out, well then you have to make sure that the motif color is dominant. There's a whole guide on our blog that shows this with, photos and game-changing tips, so check it out. Then we have swatching it in the round. Now, even though you're knitting mittens or a sweater, swatch it in the round to test your gauge and to see how the colors interact. Stranded knitting tends to be tighter than stockinette, so it's worth the extra effort. Then you have to play with the palettes. Don't just think in terms of high contrast. Subtle and low contrast color work can be just as chic. It creates a textured, tonal effect that feels modern and wearable. And remember, mistakes, they're just part of the process. Now, every single knitter has carried a float too tight or mixed up a chart row, and that's how you learn. And the result is definitely always worth it. Now, I want to go on a little tangent about color work history because I find it absolutely fascinating, and I think it's going to be really nice to know before we actually commit to creating our first color work piece. So colorwork knitting, it might feel like a modern playground for palettes and for motifs, but it actually has roots that stretch back so many centuries. So we're going to look into that. Some of the earliest examples of stranded knitting come from Egypt, actually, where they found fragments of socks from early as the 11th century that show these beautiful, intricate patterns made with multiple colors. And these weren't quite the same as Scandinavian Fair Isle, but they prove that knitters have always loved mixing shades to create something striking. Fast forward to 1857, when a young Norwegian lady named Marit Emstan knit the very first Selbu mittens. With their distinctive 8-pointed star motifs, these mittens became an absolute sensation. Within decades, Selbu patterns were everywhere in Norway, a true national symbol of skill and tradition. Meanwhile, on the windswept Shetland Islands, knitters developed what now we call Fair Isle knitting. Now famous for using only 2 colors per row and repeating small geometric motifs, Fair Isle became internationally known in the 1920s when the Prince of Wales wore a Fair Isle sweater in public. Suddenly, what started as a local tradition became global fashion. In Iceland, the lopapeysa sweater is the national garment. Circular yokes filled with motifs inspired by snowflakes, nature, and folklore, all knit in the warm, rustic lopi wool. The designs only became widespread in the mid-20th century, but it feels timeless and it's still worn by Icelanders today as both everyday clothing and cultural pride. Today, colorwork is everywhere, from traditional motifs and heritage knits to bold graphic designs and runaways. Designers experiment with neon palettes, oversized motifs, and even pixel art-inspired charts. It's proof that colorwork is both deeply traditional and endlessly adaptable. What's amazing is that all these different strands of history, Egypt and Norway and Shetland and Iceland, they weave together into what we now think of as colorwork. The most fascinating thing about colorwork is how the motifs, they just keep evolving. It is a very dynamic art. Traditional motifs were inspired by nature and symbolism, like the 8-point snowflake or crosses or chevrons, little trees, flowers, birds, and they were designed to be repeated in bands. And maybe because it was easier to chart by hand something that was geometric or symmetrical. But now, modern motifs, on the other hand, they really break those rules because of how art has evolved over time, and also probably because designers are always on the lookout for what's next or pushing the boundaries. Now, I think that both approaches are beautiful. Traditional motifs connect us to heritage, the kind of knits that feel rooted in history, and modern motifs, they're nice, they're playful, they're expressive, they're fashion forward. And what I love about the Dorthea collection is that it sits right in the middle. It's inspired by tradition, but streamlined and modern enough to fit seamlessly into a contemporary wardrobe. So every time you knit a Dorthea mitten or the yoke sweater, you are connecting to centuries of knitters who used the same technique to tell stories in stitches. And what Dorthea does is definitely honor that history while updating it for today. Clean lines, modern fits, fresh color palettes, all while keeping that sense of tradition alive. It's a conversation between the past and the present. And it's beautiful that we get to also join in with every stitch. At the end of the day, Dorthea isn't just a collection of pattern, it's a way to fall in love with colorwork, whether it's your first time or your 15th time. The patterns are free to download on Hobbii.com and on the Hobbii site, wherever you are shopping from. And the blog has all the photos, the yarn details, the styling inspiration, everything you need to get started and cast on. So when you will cast on your Dorthea project, please share it with us. Tag at Hobbii_yarn or at Copenhagen Fibers on Instagram and use the hashtags Hobbii Dorthea and Copenhagen Fibers by Hobbii, because trust me, we cannot wait to see your mittens, your cowls, your sweaters out in the wild, because these aren't just knits you tuck away in a drawer. Trust me, they are knits you will wear so proudly. You will want to show them off all the time and maybe even let somebody try them on before you've woven in the ends, because Copenhagen Fibers is always made to notice. So bestie, that's the Dorthea collection. 4 modern designs, 4 gorgeous yarns, endless ways to play with colorwork, from beginner-friendly mittens to statement yoke sweaters. These patterns will give you both confidence and joy. Remember to also check out the Tekla collection because that one is really, really, really awesome too. All right, bestie, it was lovely chatting with you this time. Don't forget to grab your free patterns on hobbii.com. Check out the blog for photos and guides and share your makes with us online. Until next time, keep your floats even, your colors bold, and your projects cozy. This was Gea from Hobbii. I will see you very, very soon. Okay, love you, bestie. Bye.